All right, guys. So we have the results from the French election, and there's a bunch of interesting stuff to go through. So here I have an article from The Guardian. Macron vows to unite divided France after victory over Le Pen as it happens. So this was like a live blog of what went down. I'm just going to give you some key stuff from this. So they say Emmanuel Macron has been re-elected president of France, scoring an estimated 58.8% of the vote against the estimated 41.2% of his far-right challenger, Marine Le Pen. So let me just say, there was, in the previous round of voting, you had what we might call the Bernie of the, France, or the Bernie of the left. No, it's, okay, I don't know why I'm not saying this in an understandable way. The Bernie of France, the guy who represented the left in France. His name is Mélenchon, and he almost made the final round of voting. I think he came up like a percentage point short or something like that. So there was talk about how the polls were tightening in France, and it looked like Le Pen might be able to make a run at it against Macron. Now, I told you guys in the previous segment I did on this, look, this is interesting, particularly because there's both shades of 2016 and shades of 2020 in this. And of course, I'm, referencing the US elections. So you got the sense that Macron represented either a Hillary Clinton-like character against Donald Trump in 2016, or he represented a Joe Biden-like character in 2020 against Trump. So that's why I told you guys it could go either way, because in 2016, Hillary lost, Trump won. The frustration with the establishment was so overwhelming, and we had just come off, 8 years of Barack Obama, and so Trump won. But in 2020, Trump himself became, a very establishment Republican-like figure. He didn't govern in a way that was for working people, and you had Joe Biden sort of win by default. So we're going to get to more on that in a little bit, this idea of winning by default, which is kind of what Macron did. They say the centrist Macron's victory was higher than predicted by any poll and marked the first time in 20 years that a French president has been reelected. So even though this percentage was higher than what was expected in these polls, because again, they tightened leading up to the day, previously, Le Pen had run for president in like 2002 or something like that, and then the previous election. And every single time Le Pen has run, she's now gotten more and more of the vote. So in some ways, even though she lost pretty decisively here, the far right may take some solace in the fact that they've been closing the gap more and more and more. His margin of victory was significantly narrower than the 66 to 34% win he managed against the same contender 5 years ago. However, and Le Pen's score was the highest ever recorded by her far-right party. The far left and far right immediately called for unity in their respective camps with the aim of thwarting Macron's second-term ambitions by denying him a clear majority in parliamentary elections due in June. In his victory speech at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, Macron vowed to respond efficiently to the anger and disagreement of voters who chose the far right and called on his supporters to be kind and respectful because the country was riven by doubt and division. Le Pen said her result was a striking victory and that the ideas she represented had reached new heights, adding, "In this defeat, I can't help but feel a hope." She said she would not be standing aside from politics, as many suspected she would if she lost. European leaders, including Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, congratulated Macron on his victory amid sighs of relief around EU capitals at the pro-European centrists' re-election. This summary was amended on April 25th to give 41.2% rather than 48.2% as Marine Le Pen's estimated popular vote tally as of 21:48 UK time on election night. Okay, anyway, so Macron's, basically the point here is that Macron came out and gave a very conciliatory speech. He had some line about like, look, I'm not the representative of the center-left party. I am the president of all, and I will govern in a way that is being the president of all. It's the typical thing that you hear from, the Bill Clinton types, the Barack Obama types, the Emmanuel Macron types. So this was a victory for basically centrism in France. Now, let me give you some more information on this because this is wild to me. So there are a lot of parallels to what's going on in the U.S. And Mac tweeted this. This was on a France 24, which is a news channel. They say, he says, healthy democracy. And then you see reasons for voting for Emmanuel Macron. and this is from Mélenchon voters, so like their version of Bernie, 91% of them voted to block Marine Le Pen from winning. Only 9% voted because they thought, hey, he would make a good president. So, lesser evilism, even in France, you're dealing with lesser evilism. And that truly is a stunning number. So you also had more abstentions than in previous elections. So, and by the way, the overall number, Macron did get, honestly, way more voters from Mélenchon, and Marine Le Pen only got a tiny percentage of the Mélenchon voters. There were very few Mélenchon to Le Pen voters. I think the majority was Mélenchon to abstain, and then it was like 42% that was Mélenchon to Macron. So, but 91%, hey, we don't like this guy, we're just trying to block Le Pen from winning. That screams of 2016 in the US and 2020 in the US. And now, here was my concern as I was watching all this unfold. I thought, okay, how is the Biden administration going to react to this? Because they view Macron as, a deep ideological ally in many respects. And my fear was they might look at what happened with Macron and they might say, hey, this is just evidence that we don't need to do anything. We could just coast on our centrist label and say, hey, aren't the other guys so crazy? And then we can win. And I mean, I was naively hoping they wouldn't take that lesson away from this. But look at this. I saw this like 5 minutes after I was hoping that wouldn't be the case. This is Ronald Klain. He's inside the White House. An interesting observation, just FYI. President Macron appears to have secured a double-digit victory over Le Pen at a time when his approval rating is 36%. So do you understand what he's saying there? He's saying, look, all you people out there whining and bitching and moaning about Joe Biden, about our administration, about how we're doing, about what we're doing, about, oh my God, there's a threat of Trump and the rise of the right again, yada, yada. Understand, even though our approval rating is in the same ballpark, you can be deeply unpopular and still win. So this is, I mean, I don't think I'm misinterpreting this when I say it sounds to me like they're willing to go, let's really not do much, and hopefully we still win. And I think we can still win. Simply because we can coast on our centrist label, and Trump is too extreme, the Republicans are too extreme, and so Americans will definitely reject them. But, of course, that becomes a crutch to not do anything that the people want, and to not take on your donors, to not really, try to shift the balance of power in the direction of working people. And so when I see this, I think like whatever sort of panic may have been behind the scenes where they were like, damn, our numbers with young people are imploding. What are we going to do? Maybe we should abolish student loan debt. Maybe we should take action on that. I think they looked at Macron winning and they were like, maybe we're good. Like, maybe we're good. Imagine rationalizing having the lowest poll I saw of Biden was 33%. His average is about 41 or 42%, I think. But imagine like coasting on that, thinking like, sure, I'm massively unpopular and everybody's disappointed, but the other guy's worse. And so it's that vicious cycle of lesser evilism, I mean, don't get me wrong. Macron is definitely a lesser evil, so him beating Le Pen is a good thing. But at the same time, it's like, you see these centrists, so-called centrists, really they're just status quo defenders or status quo tweakers or managers. They are so emboldened, and they are the representatives of the current framework of the system, even though people are struggling like crazy. And they're just coasting off their mediocrity. And it's honestly, it's too kind to even call them mediocre. So, I mean, look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that this doesn't embolden Biden to continue to do absolutely nothing and just try to win with zero message in 2024 and zero delivering for the people. But it looks like that is what they're going to take away from it. So anyway, there you have it. French election, Macron wins. Honestly, I would be willing to call this like a crushing victory. 58.8% is not really close. It's not a close election when you get to 58.8%. But again, I think the thing about that's scary is that every time Le Pen has run, she's gotten more and more and more of the vote. And you're going to get this complacency. You already have this complacency among the so-called center-left, the centrists. And I think they might have this false sense of security, that they feel like they're bulletproof, even though they shouldn't. I mean, look, Hillary lost to Trump. We saw that. Biden beat Trump, but honestly, Biden beat Trump by a margin that was far too close for comfort. I mean, Trump had a pandemic. The economy was imploding. He had all these problems. I mean, he's Donald Trump, deeply unstable. And Biden barely pulled it out. So they might get a false sense of security and the sense that they're bulletproof. And all you need to do is, you know, say you're a centrist and then like, oh, we're going to win no matter what. But I don't know how long that game can be played. I really don't. And I do think Biden is probably a lot more vulnerable even than Le Pen was. Or excuse me, even than Macron was. I think Macron is probably a more talented politician as well, compared to not in terms of policy, but in terms of how he presents himself to the voters. I think he's probably a more talented politician, and that also was perhaps why he was able to pull this victory off. But I think they're going to take the wrong message away from it, and that would be devastating. And look, we'll know if they do, because they'll continue to do absolutely nothing. There will be no strong action on student loan debt relief. There will be no move to, you know, decriminalize marijuana, for example. There will be no piecemeal approach to breaking up Build Back Better and trying to do individual bills on, say, elder care or universal pre-K. There'll be no big, bold moves coming the rest of the time in office, if indeed they feel emboldened by this Macron victory. And I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, I think they were leaning in that direction anyway, but now with Macron winning, they feel like, oh, we're good. We're good. Like, I honestly believe they could go into election day 2024, assuming they're, you know, Biden's still around and Trump is still around, etc. And they could look at a 30% approval rating and be like, hey, we can still pull this off. So, broken systems, to say the least. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.